Delighted to say the Athletic's James Pearce is with us now on the line. Good morning to you, James.
Good morning.
So 3-0 to Watford on Saturday night. I think the natural starting point here is what happened to Liverpool?
It's a good question. I think, it was a throwback, really, wasn't it, to the kind of performance that, it's been a long time since Liverpool fans have witnessed anything quite like that. I think, you have to go back to October 2017, the 4-1 defeat to Tottenham at Wembley for the last time they lost a Premier League game by more than one goal. I think it was just a disastrous performance from start to finish. I think, I don't think it's fair to scapegoat any one individual or pinpoint any one particular area. I think it was just a massively disappointing performance in all departments. Vulnerable defensively, no spark or creativity in midfield, and toothless up front. And Watford thoroughly deserved to be the team that ended Liverpool's 44-game unbeaten run.
I always thought it was going to be something bizarre that might end this unbeaten run. I really didn't expect it to be a comprehensive victory for any one side. And I'm sure you probably share that same sense of surprise, and a lot of the Liverpool supporters do as well, that this is just so unbecoming of this current Liverpool side.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. I think even, it was, even watching that game at the weekend, you get to half-time and you think there'd actually been quite a few games like that this season where Liverpool have started pretty slowly and you think, Klopp will get them going. Second half, they'll just raise it. We've seen it time and time again from this Liverpool team, how resilient they are when they're not at their best. They dig in, they grind out results. And, even at 1-0, even at 2-0, I was sat there thinking, they'll come alive. They'll come to life here, and there's still something to be salvaged. But it just never happened. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. I think there's no question they massively missed Joe Gomez at the weekend. I mean, Dejan Lovren was a lightning rod for criticism, which I think it's unfair just to blame him. But there's no doubt that he made some poor decision making and poor errors in the game, which sparked a bit of panic around him. And I think also the last two matches have underlined how much the importance of Jordan Henderson to this team, because Liverpool without Gomez and without Henderson aren't the same force. And I think also in general, when you actually look at Liverpool's performances since the winter break, they have been disjointed, and they found a way to win at Norwich. They found a way to beat.
Oh, we seem to have lost James Pearce on the line there, chatting about Watford 3, Liverpool 0 over the course of the weekend, chatting there about Liverpool's return from the winter break. And we will get Mark Lawrence's take on Liverpool now as well. He was in conversation with Stephen Doyle.
It was a real kind of wheels falling off. I was working for NFC TV, and we had an interview with Klopp, and the impression was, in many ways, he was almost kind of like, thank goodness it's ended, because now we can just get on with winning the league, etc. I think he said, his comment was something like, oh yeah, maybe in 500 years people would have recognised it as a good record. But no, they just didn't play at all. I thought as well that Lovren looked extremely ring rusty. Troy Deeney basically had him on toast. In the end, Lovren's trying to fight him, which is exactly what Deeney wanted. And I think the performance of Lovren actually made Virgil van Dijk look ordinary yesterday. But they just didn't play. I mean, there's you can dress it up whichever way you want. They just weren't good enough on the day. And it's nothing about nerves or lack of effort or weary, whatever it is. They just did not play well. It happens, we know.
You didn't think it was a weariness? That was the one I felt most likely.
No. Well, they just had a break, haven't they? No, and the thing about all these football clubs now is that, you can test the white blood cells and the red blood cells, and quite often a lot of them are tested the day before a game. And the doctor can actually say to the manager, oh, by the way, Bobby Firmino's a little bit low. And the manager has to make a decision then, thinking, well, shall I leave him out or play him? So, no, I mean, the sports science is so good nowadays that they kind of know when people are in the red zone.
That's interesting. Mark Lawrence is speaking to Joe on yesterday's Off the Ball. James Pearce is back with us on the line. Do you subscribe to that, James, that perhaps the physical attributes aren't to blame here at all, that it is just a mental thing, that, I don't know, they perhaps lacked a fight on Saturday night at times?
Yeah, I certainly don't think you can blame fatigue. I actually think, the winter break has probably counted against Liverpool in terms of they've lost their rhythm. The four performances since the winter break have been very disjointed. And yes, they found a way to win at Norwich. They sneaked over the line at home to West Ham, but they were very poor over in Madrid and very poor again at the weekend. So I think there were a number of factors for the weekend. I think a bit of complacency probably has crept in as well, because I think when you're on an incredible run like this, you kind of almost feel as if it won't ever end. And maybe they forgot on the weekend that you have to earn that right every single time you step out onto the pitch, especially against a team like Watford who are fighting for their lives at the bottom.
How important a factor is this now in how we judge the legacy of this particular season for Liverpool? Of course, there are more trophies to be played for. Chelsea tomorrow night is a big game. The Atletico second leg is a huge game. But is this one little thread being taken out of this Liverpool side this season, being the second Invincibles of the Premier League era, with, you would suspect, more points, would have been a huge crowning glory for Liverpool's first Premier League title?
Yeah, I think, I wrote after the weekend, I don't think the Watford defeat defines this season, but I think what will define this season is how they respond to it, because there's still so much to be achieved. I mean, I've never been massively subscribed to the importance of emulating the Arsenal Invincibles. I just think football's about winning trophies and about success. It's not about records. Of course, that would have been nice, but I think winning the FA Cup or the Champions League, or preferably both of them, are much more important than going unbeaten for an entire Premier League season. And there's still so much to be achieved. I think the big thing for Klopp is, they are in a little mini slump at the moment performance-wise, and he'll know that this is a huge week coming up. Chelsea away in the FA Cup tomorrow night, which Chelsea, their form has been very inconsistent themselves. That's a tie. Even with 3, 4, 5, 6 changes, Liverpool are more than capable of going there and winning. And then suddenly you're in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. And then, on the horizon next Wednesday night at Anfield, a huge European night against Atletico, and trying to turn around that deficit. So, I think these next, the next kind of 8-9 days, are absolutely huge for Liverpool, because, this team have been, given so many plaudits this season, and rightly so, because, their consistency has been awe-inspiring at times. But, Liverpool are going to win the Premier League title regardless. But I just think, if they were to go out of the FA Cup, go out of the Champions League, and just limp over the line in the Premier League, I think it would leave a little bit of a sense of anticlimax, considering what this season threatened to produce. So the big job for Klopp is at Melwood in the next coming days, is to trigger a big spirited response. And Liverpool actually had a similar drop in form around this time last season, and ended up springing back into life and finishing the campaign very, very strongly. So hopefully lightning will strike twice.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that it would lead to a bit of an anticlimactic end to the season if that were to happen, if they were to crash out of both of those cup competitions in the next week and a half or thereabouts. Like, just on that, I wonder if the whole narrative around comparing Liverpool to other teams is part of that too. That's like, you would probably disagree with the point of comparing Liverpool to the Arsenal Invincibles, because it is about winning trophies. But if you look closer to home and you look towards Manchester, and you look towards the many comparisons, especially on Sky Sports, between this Liverpool team and the treble-winning team, that sort of crystallises the stakes now in front of Liverpool in terms of going down in the Hall of Fame of great English teams that we've seen. That there is this comparison. Winning multiple trophies is something that this team needs to be targeting.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, there's been an aura around this team, hasn't there, this season, in terms of what they've achieved, and all the records that have fallen by the wayside. But this is now absolutely crunch time, because if they want to be regarded as one of the all-time great teams who have ever graced English football, then you have to respond positively to setbacks. And I think back to the back end of last season and the crushing disappointment of missing out on the league title to Manchester City. What happened? Liverpool came out swinging. They won the Champions League, and then embarked on this amazing procession to their first league title for 30 years. So that's the task for these players and this manager now. Can they respond in the same way? Because do you know what? If Liverpool go on and add the FA Cup or the Champions League, or preferably both, to the league title, then come the end of May, nobody's going to be banging on about a miserable day at Watford.
No, absolutely not. That will make it an absolutely sensational season, and it is already going to be a good year for them. Just a final point then, like just one last thing that Mark Lawrence said there about Dejan Lovren getting bullied by Troy Deeney. There is a slight comparison we can make here between that Atletico night and this Watford result, isn't there? That there is kind of like a hard edge to the teams that are beating Liverpool, that to beat Liverpool you need to try and bully them.
Yeah, I think to a certain degree. I think certainly. I think where the comparisons were is that Atletico and Watford both got in Liverpool's faces, didn't they? They didn't let Liverpool settle into their stride. They didn't let them establish a foothold in the game. I think of course Atletico are in a different class to Watford. I think, but what I would say is that. Liverpool have proved a depth this season at breaking down teams that try and make life difficult for them. It was just in those two performances there was no spark, there was no real guile, no creativity. I mean, how many you look at the stats afterwards, and Salah, Mane, Firmino didn't have a single shot on target between them. I can't remember that ever happening in a game before. So the big strength of this Liverpool team has been able to win games in so many different ways and hurt opposing teams in so many different ways. So that even when their teams are defending deep against them, you've got the fullbacks marauding down the flanks and whipping in quality deliveries. You've got runners from midfield getting up in support of the front three, and you've got that front line capable of producing a bit of inspiration. But for whatever reason, that just hasn't been there in those defeats away to Atletico and away to Watford, and getting that back is going to be absolutely crucial. And it's going to be intriguing to see how Klopp does treat the FA Cup game at Chelsea on Tuesday night, because does what happened at the weekend just change things for him a little bit in terms of the number of changes that he will actually make? Because I think a strong case could be made that Chelsea away in the FA Cup is actually probably a bigger game than Bournemouth at home in the league this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it probably is. Listen, it's going to be a fascinating end to the season. We'll chat to you again soon. James Pearce, thanks for taking the call.
Cheers.
James Pearce there on the line of theathletic.com. You can subscribe to check out more of his work.